So, you guys, show of hands. Everybody here has heard the phrase sticks and stones may break your bones, but words will never hurt you, right? Um, did anybody ever think that's ridiculous when they heard that? Okay, a couple people were with me. I think I thought that the first time that I ever said it in elementary school, and I was like, that's totally inaccurate. I am hurt, right? I'm gonna tell you guys a story about the first time that words actually impacted and hurt me. So I'd like to introduce you to middle school Crystal. So one day when I was in the seventh grade, I was staying after school waiting to be picked up. And one of my elementary school friends who had transferred to that school with me started to chase me around the playground. And I thought, well, I mean, he's a boy. If I run into the bathroom, there's no way he's coming with me, right? Any of you ever met a seventh grade boy? Right? That was totally the opposite of what he did. He definitely chased me into the restroom. A couple seconds later, an after school support aide came into the bathroom and yelled at us, "Get out of there." So, me at the way back of the bathroom and him kind of lingering at the front door, we said, okay. And we turned around, we ran out. And I assumed that that was the end of things. Until the next day, I'm in class, and my seventh grade teacher, I hope she sees this, she'll know who she is. She called me up to the front, and I thought, okay, here goes the trouble, right? She's totally gonna get on me about what happened with the bathroom. But instead, she called me up and she began to scold me about the length of my uniform skirt. Um, she didn't know what I knew, but I let her talk. And she started talking to me about how I was fast and how I thought I was all that, and that's why I was in that bathroom with that boy. And when I tell you that I instantly felt myself running hot, because I really wanted to say something, but I could hear my mother's voice telling me, you don't ever disrespect adults. But if some adult disrespects you, you come get me and I'll take care of it. So in that moment, I told her, well, ma'am, that's not true. The cleaners accidentally hemmed my skirt starting from where my mother wanted my skirt to land. So it ended up being about 2 inches shorter than that. And I was already 5'7" in the seventh grade. I didn't need any help showing off my legs or bringing attention to myself. So when she said that and I was trying to explain to her, she said, oh, yeah, right. And she just kind of started to continue to go on. And I said, you know what? This doesn't feel good. I'm going to go and call my mom. She said, oh, no, you're not. I said, oh, yes, ma'am, I am. And I didn't say anything else. I turned around, I walked out. I went to the payphone on the campus, and I called my mother at work. And I told her what happened, and she said, I'll be there as soon as I can. My mom left work early, and she showed up. And I don't know what was said in that principal's office, but what I do know is that I had that same teacher the rest of the year, and I never had another negative interaction with that teacher. So thank God for my mama. I decided to become a teacher, and I told myself I would never let one of my students feel the way that I did that day in the seventh grade. And then I started to work at the university, this one, in fact. And I always made sure that my student teachers knew that it was their responsibility to use their voice in a way that would make their students feel supported and to advocate for them in spaces where nobody else would be there to do that. So, even though I learned somewhere along the line that broken bones definitely heal, I always remembered that you can never unhear a harsh word, and words absolutely can hurt you. What does the research say? So, Dr. Masaru Emoto, a Japanese scientist, conducted a study where he looked at the impact of words on water. He froze water, and some of that water that he froze, he said things like, thank you, love and gratitude, peace. In other containers of water, he said, "You're evil." And the results after he froze them were incredible. I definitely suggest that you guys all look this study up so that you can see for yourself. It was copyrighted, I couldn't add it. But the ice crystals that have been spoken to positively form these beautiful, intricate crystal patterns. The water that have been spoken to negatively didn't even bear any resemblance to water crystals at all. In 2021, there was a study out of India by some researchers who decided to look at the impact of positivity and environment on plants. They took two plants, one plant, they put in a room and they cussed at it all day. The other plant, they put in a room where they praised it all day long. And after 4 weeks, they looked at a couple of different measures: germination rate, leaf color, plant height, the health factors looking at the stem and spots, the color of the leaves. And what they found was pretty remarkable. The plants that had been in the positive environment had higher germination rate, they grew taller, their leaves were larger, and overall they were healthier. So I started thinking, well, if that's the impact of words on water and plants, what about the human body? So in case you did not know, your heart and your brain are made up of 73% water. Your skin, 64% water. Your lungs, 83% water. Muscles and kidneys, 79% water. Your bones even are made up of 31% water. And in humans, the amount of water that's available in your body, it changes based on your age. When you're first born, the average person has about 78% water. By the time you're 1 year old, your body has now had a reduction in water and you have about 65%. An adult male has approximately 60% of his body made up of water. And due to the little extra fat that us ladies got, we're only about 55%, okay? But for me, I'm thinking, if our bodies are made up of water, right, then what are words doing to us? So I'm gonna tell you guys a story, and forgive me if I cry. When I became a teacher, and I've had experience working in schools for over 20 years. I've worked in elementary, middle school, high schools. And later into my career, about 5 years in, I started to work with students who had special needs. I had the honor and privilege of teaching students who were labeled emotionally disturbed. Thank God now they call that emotional disabilities, okay? But my students, their self-esteem and their attitudes towards school have been greatly impacted by the words that were used on them by either classmates or teachers. My students have been told that they were bad, lazy, crazy, stupid, just because their behaviors began to manifest. Now I had this one student, Ronshawn Johnson, may he rest in peace. On my first day in class, I told my students, I'd like you to tell me 3 strengths that you have. And I circulated, and I got this paper, and his paper said, art and making money. I said, okay, well, look at that. I love that you have 2, but the assignment was for 3, so I need you to give me another. I'll come back. And I circulated, and I came back. And I said, well, Ronshawn, you still only have 2 on your paper. He said, Miss, I ain't got another one. And I said, okay, well, I want you to think really hard. I'm going to circulate and check in with everyone else. I'll be right back. And I came back after I circulated, and I asked him, so what's that third? This boy told me, oh, I got it, miss. My third one is going to be making you mad. When I tell you guys, I laughed hysterically. And he said, well, what's going on, miss? You're not going to kick me out? I said, absolutely not. I said, in fact, we just found your third. Making me laugh? It's number 3. Put it on the list. He put it down. He was like, oh, all right, miss. And so that led to this. On senior night, his mother could not be present. And he asked me, miss, can you come up and get my rose? I said, of course. So I ran out on the field and I got my little rose. I was so excited. But because of that experience, because of me choosing what words to use next, right? I ended up being the only person in his 5 years, because he ended up being a 5-year senior. I was the only adult on that campus that he never cussed out. We continued to be in connection well after he graduated until he passed. But to me, the thing that really stood out when I was doing all this research was the impact of self-talk. And as it turns out, that can be positive or negative self-talk. But your self-talk, it impacts your cognitive and your regulatory functions, and it can really change the way that you think overall. Now, research on self-talk says that by the time you're in elementary school, the amount of self-talk that you've used and what type of self-talk that is really determines the way that you approach middle school, okay? And internalized speech, which is like the highest form of self-talk, if you can master that and provide yourself with positive words, then the likelihood that you're going to be successful when you're in middle school and secondary and post-secondary is way elevated. So I'll tell you another story about a different student. My first year teaching, I had a student named Roman Davis. And don't let teachers lie to you. Every student has a favorite. I'm just going to be honest about it. He was mine, okay? So one day, we were out at nutrition, and I was watching him play basketball. And after nutrition was over, I said, wow, Roman, you're going to be the next Kobe Bryant. And he told me, nah, miss, I don't want to be the next Kobe Bryant. I want to be the first Roman Davis. And I said, I know that's right. Okay. Next Roman Davis. We looking forward to seeing what you become. Okay. And I'll let you know he walked on to Cal Berkeley and was freshman of the year, his first season of basketball. Now he plays overseas. And that positivity and that thought that he had of himself led to him seeing himself the way he wanted to be, and he ended up becoming that. So shout out to my boy, Roman Davis. Now, the first time that I ever learned about the impact of trauma was when I watched Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris's TED Talk in 2015. And what she did was break down the way that ACEs and traumatic stress can really impact potential health outcomes. And since that conversation, there's been more research done about the difference between a big T trauma and a little t trauma. Big T trauma being the things that you think about when you hear trauma: a bad car accident, school shootings, family divorce. Little t trauma refers to small things that happen over time, typically in adolescence, like bullying, peer rejection, and how that impacts the youth. And what the research is suggesting is that chronic exposures to little t trauma can have just as big of an impact as one big T traumatic experience. So that's not me saying that to kind of debate which one is worse, because at the end of the day, trauma is about your perception of what happened to you. But it is to bring to light that the little things, they really do add up over time. So since my career in education, I've transferred into working as a mediator and dialogue facilitator. And the one thing that always stands out to me is how words impact the parties that are in front of me. So I make sure to choose my words so that nobody is triggered by something that I didn't recognize. There was some research out of Johns Hopkins University, and there were 7 PCEs, positive childhood experiences, that were mentioned that can have counter effects to the adverse childhood experiences that people endure. One, the ability to talk with family about your feelings. Two, the sense that family is supportive during difficult times. Three, the enjoyment of participation in community traditions. Four, a sense of belonging in high school. Five, feeling supported by friends. Six, having at least two non-parent adults who genuinely cared. And seven, feeling safe and protected by an adult in the home. And what this showed me was that as long as you feel safe to share what's happening to you, and you have someone within your community that will support you and affirm you through that, we can all be okay. Now, this is my baby girl, and I'm hoping that the amount of positive childhood experiences that I am building in her life will be able to shortcut any adverse childhood experiences that she may experience. And what I'd like to invite you guys to do now is just kind of take a moment to think of a time when your inner child was impacted by somebody else's words. And the next time that you find yourself getting ready to scold a child, or to get into an argument with your coworkers, or to go off on somebody on social media, or to cuss somebody out in traffic, think back to your inner child and the things that were said to hurt you. Words have a tremendous ability to either hurt or build life into somebody. So when you have a moment where you're ready to rip into someone with your words, take a pause and ask yourself, what might they be going through that I have no idea about? And make sure that when you have an opportunity to choose violence or to speak life into someone, that you choose to use words that will speak life. Thank you.